Good morning, Potter's House family. I'm here with another word from the Word for you for today. I'm continuing 1 Peter 1, and it says this, starting in verse 17. And if you call on him as Father, who judges impartially according to each one's deeds, conduct yourselves with fear throughout the time of your exile, knowing that you were ransomed from the futile ways inherited from your forefathers, not with perishable things such as silver or gold, but with precious blood of Christ, like that of a lamb without blemish or spot. He was foreknown before the foundation of the world, but was made manifest in the last times for the sake of you, who through him are believers in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in God. He's just once again laying out the gospel here and showing us the good news about Jesus. But I notice in this passage that we're kind of instructed in this same passage in two ways that a lot of times we think are contradictory to each other. In verse 17, and if you call on him as Father who judges impartially according to each one's deeds, conduct yourselves with fear throughout the time of your exile. What does that mean? That means that the time of our exile is our time while we're still here on earth. While we have come to faith in Christ, we know God as our Father, but we're not yet made perfect in his presence for all of eternity. And so in this time, he's telling us to conduct ourselves with fear. And we might say, well, that just doesn't sound right. Because at the end here, he says in verse 21, so that your faith and hope are in God. We're like, yeah, that's what we're about, faith and hope. Like those are the good things, not fear. And we tend to think of fear being related to like an Old Testament God, a God of wrath and justice and all of this, and we think of the New Testament God being a God of love and mercy and faith and hope, and we're like, yeah, we want that New Testament God. But the reality is God is one and the same. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so the same God who is the God of justice is the God of love and faith and hope. And so what does he mean when he tells those of us who've experienced the grace of Jesus, who don't have to fear the consequences, the eternal consequences of sin? We don't have to fear God's ultimate wrath. Why does he tell us to fear God here? And I think when the Bible is talking about this, what it's talking about is, I think sometimes we misunderstand when he talks about fear. I think what he's talking about here is that we should have a very real reverence for God. That we should not take lightly sin. We should not be flippant about things that God says, don't be a part of this, don't do this. We should have a very healthy reverence for the Lord. And that's the kind of holy fear that I think he's talking about here. That we don't just take things for granted. We don't just say, oh, well, Jesus died for me, so I'm going to go do whatever I want now. It doesn't matter how I live or what I do. But no, it does matter, and we're to be image bearers for Christ and to reflect that for others. And part of that is having a healthy reverence for God. And so I encourage you today that you'd have a healthy reverence for the Lord, that you will treat him with the utmost respect, that you will be humbled in his presence today. But that is not for the purpose of just beating you down or having you discouraged, but instead that is for the purpose of leading you to where you can have a pure and healthy faith and hope in the Lord. This has been your word from the Word for today. I hope it's been encouragement to you. I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.